Okay, let's dive into something that's, well, it's becoming more and more a part of our homes, right? The smart home digital assistant market.
Definitely feels like it's everywhere these days.
Exactly. We've got insights here from a recent market research report by Cognitive Market Research.
Right.
And our mission, really, in this deep dive is to try and figure out what's actually going on.
Get behind the headlines.
Yeah, unpack the key findings. The market's size now, where it's headed, and it seems dramatically headed somewhere.
Hmm.
What's fueling that growth? What things are maybe holding it back?
The obstacles, sure.
And then look at how it breaks down, by the different assistants, the operating systems, and importantly, where this is all happening geographically.
It's a complex picture, but the data helps clarify things.
Absolutely. And speaking of clarifying, here's the big hook right away. This report, it suggests the market is set to nearly triple in value.
Wow, triple.
Yeah, in just the next 8 years or so.
That's pretty staggering growth.
Right.
Really fast.
It really is. So let's put some numbers on that. The report pegs the global smart home digital assistant market at around 6.8 billion US dollars in 2025.
Okay, 6.8 billion starting point.
And the forecast, looking out to 2033, projects it'll hit nearly $20 billion.
So almost 19.7 billion, yeah. That's the near tripling.
Which works out to a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of just over 14%.
14.2%, yeah. That's a very healthy, sustained growth rate year on year.
It is. And the report, it used 2024 as its base year, looked back historically from 2021, and gives us this forecast through 2033.
So a solid time frame. It points to a period of really strong expansion for this tech.
Which, makes you ask the obvious question, why? What's driving all this?
Well, the report highlights a few key things.
Go on.
One of the biggest drivers, and it's probably no surprise, is just the demand for hands-free convenience.
Right. We just want to ask for things.
Exactly. That ability to use your voice, control things around the house, it's really appealing.
That simple, hey, turn the lights off or, adjust the thermostat. That's a big pull. What else is adding fuel?
Another really critical factor is how much better the underlying tech is getting, specifically AI and natural language processing.
Ah, so they actually understand us better now.
Pretty much. The better they grasp what you're saying, dealing with different accents, background noise, the more useful they are.
Less frustrating, definitely.
Yeah, and that improved user experience directly pushes people to adopt them.
Makes sense. And the report also mentions just a growing interest from consumers in energy efficiency and home automation generally.
Right, and these digital assistants become the kind of central hub, the easy interface to manage all those smart devices, lights, plugs, thermostats, whatever.
Easier than digging out your phone for every little thing.
Often, yeah. And there are broader trends helping too, like deeper integration between AI and the Internet of Things, IoT.
Meaning things work together more smoothly.
Exactly. Better automation, more personalization based on your habits. And, of course, just ongoing improvements in the voice recognition itself and making sure these assistants can connect across, multiple devices in your home.
So it all kind of comes together to make the whole smart home idea more practical.
Precisely. It's becoming more accessible and more genuinely useful.
Okay, so those are the big engines pushing things forward. But like you said, there are always obstacles. What's holding the market back, according to this report?
The report points to a couple of main restraints. One is still the initial cost.
Right, setting up a full system isn't always cheap.
No. It can be a barrier for some people, and related to that sometimes are compatibility issues.
The classic, does this work with that problem?
Yeah. Not every smart gadget plays nicely with every single assistant ecosystem yet. It's getting better, but it's still a factor.
And then there's the big one, the thing everyone worries about with listening devices. Data privacy and security. Absolutely huge. The report flags this as a major concern that can limit adoption. If people don't trust the device, don't trust how their data is being handled.
They just won't buy it or they'll unplug it.
Exactly. Or severely limit what they use it for. It's this constant balancing act between wanting the convenience and worrying about privacy.
That trust issue is definitely key. Okay, shifting gears a bit. Who are the main companies fighting it out in this space? What's the competitive landscape look like?
Well, the report calls it highly competitive, but it's dominated by a few key players. You can probably guess who.
Amazon and Google are likely front and center.
They are. And the report says these players are heavily investing in, well, the things we just talked about. AI, natural language processing, IoT integration.
All aimed at making their assistant the best, the most useful.
Right. improving that user experience, making their platform the sort of natural hub for your connected home.
So the competition isn't just about, say, voice accuracy alone.
No, it's broader. It's about ecosystem compatibility. How well does it work with other stuff? How good are the personalization features? And crucially, how well do they address those security and privacy concerns?
Right. You need the whole package.
Exactly. And the report actually gives a specific example. It mentions that back in January 2024, Amazon rolled out a new version of Alexa.
Oh, yeah. What was new?
It was focused on more advanced AI capabilities, things like more natural conversational interactions, better understanding of context.
So it remembers what you were just talking about.
Kind of, yeah. And processing multi-step commands, like turn on the lights and set the thermostat to 70.
Okay, that shows they're constantly pushing to make them smarter, more capable.
Definitely. It's an ongoing arms race, in a way.
Let's break the market down a bit more then. Starting with the actual products, the assistants themselves. Who's leading by product type?
According to the report, Amazon Alexa is expected to kind of maintain its dominant share overall.
Okay, and why is that? What are the reasons given?
The big one is that massive ecosystem integration Alexa has.
The works with Alexa factor?
Exactly. So many third-party devices connect with it. That plus Amazon's continuous innovation and just their huge existing customer base through Prime and Echo devices, it makes Alexa a really strong contender, kind of the default for many people starting out.
That makes sense. If it connects to almost everything, it's just easier to build around it. But here's another really interesting bit from the report. It says Google Assistant is actually the fastest growing segment.
Right. So Alexa might have the biggest slice now, but Google's catching up fast in terms of growth speed.
Why is Google growing so quickly?
The report points to a few things. One is that deep integration with Google's own massive ecosystem.
Search, Maps, YouTube, Android itself.
All of that. It makes Assistant useful for a lot more than just controlling smart lights. Plus, like Alexa, it's got broad compatibility with other devices now.
And Google's always pushing its AI and language processing, too.
Definitely. They're very strong there. The report also specifically calls out Google's aggressive pricing on its Nest hardware, like the speakers and displays.
Ah, making the hardware more affordable.
Yeah, and just the wide availability of those Nest products helps get Assistant into more homes faster. It's a powerful mix. Software smarts, ecosystem links, and accessible hardware.
It's really fascinating to watch that dynamic, established leader versus the fast accelerator. The report does mention others too, right? Apple Siri, Microsoft Cortana, Samsung Bixby.
Yep, they're listed as well. So it's not just a two-horse race, even if Amazon and Google get most of the attention.
Okay, now thinking about the tech layer underneath the operating system, how does the market shape up there?
Well, according to the source, the Android segment has the largest share currently.
Which seems directly linked to Google Assistant's reach, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Android is the most widely used mobile OS globally, right? So Google Assistant is baked into countless phones and tablets.
Making it instantly available to billions.
Pretty much. And Android's more open nature also makes it, perhaps, a bit easier for device manufacturers to integrate Google Assistant compatibility into their smart home products.
So scale and openness give Android a big edge. What about iOS?
The report notes that the iOS segment is expanding rapidly, too.
Driven by Apple's ecosystem.
Naturally.
Yeah.
You know, the way Siri works across iPhones, iPads, HomePods, it's very seamless for Apple users.
And Apple often emphasizes privacy, which might appeal to some users.
That's a key part of their pitch, yeah. Offering a secure, personalized experience. And they are also increasing Siri's compatibility with third-party smart home stuff.
So again, different strategies. The broad, open platform versus the tightly controlled, integrated ecosystem. And Windows is mentioned, too, as an OS outlook. Okay, let's talk about how people actually use these assistants. The report breaks it down by type.
Right, so the largest share right now belongs to what they call product-based voice assistants.
And that means the assistant is built right into a physical product, like a smart speaker.
Exactly. Your Amazon Echo, your Google Nest speaker or display, or even assistants built into, say, smart TVs or appliances.
Okay.
These are often dedicated devices where voice assistance is a core function, making them sort of the central command post for the smart home.
Got it. And what's the other main type mentioned?
The other category is app-based voice assistants, and the report highlights this as the rapidly growing sector.
So that's just using the assistant via an app on your phone or tablet.
Precisely. Think using the Google Assistant app or the Amazon Alexa app.
Why is that growing so fast?
Accessibility, mainly.
Yeah.
Almost everyone has a smartphone or tablet already.
Right, no need to buy a separate speaker necessarily.
Exactly. It lowers the cost of entry. You can manage your smart home devices through an app you already have. It's convenient, flexible, cost-effective, and that's driving a lot of growth there.
That makes total sense. Use the hardware people already carry. Okay, let's zoom out now. The global picture. Where is this market the biggest, and where is it growing fastest?
Okay, so looking at the market share numbers for 2025, North America has the biggest slice, over 40% of the market value.
Wow, nearly half.
Yeah. Then Europe is next, over 30%. Then the Asia-Pacific region, or APAC, that's around 23%.
Okay.
And then South America, the Middle East, and Africa have smaller shares, but they're definitely part of the picture.
So North America leads in size right now, but who's growing fastest? Where's the momentum?
That's where it flips a bit. The report forecasts that APAC will have the highest growth rate through 2033, a TGR of 17.2%.
Okay, Asia-Pacific leading the growth charge.
Yep. Followed by the Middle East and South America, both projected over 14% CGRE. Then Africa. North America and Europe, while they're the bigger markets today, are projected to grow a bit slower, though still strong at just under 13% CGR each.
Interesting. So the emerging markets are where the really rapid expansion is expected. Can we pull out a couple of specific country examples to see what's driving things locally?
Sure. So in North America, the U.S. is obviously the biggest market by far.
Yeah.
And the report links its growth particularly to AI-driven adoption.
Okay.
And Canada, interestingly, is projected for slightly faster growth than the U.S. The report connects that to deeper IoT integration and general home automation trends taking hold there.
What about Europe? Any specific drivers mentioned?
Germany and the U.K. are big markets there. For the U.K., the report specifically mentions a link between smart home growth and things like the rise of electric vehicles.
Oh, how so?
Maybe integrating smart charging management via home assistance, and also government sustainability efforts potentially boosting smart energy management in homes.
That's a really specific connection. Interesting.
It is. And then over in APAC, the fastest growing region, China is the largest single market there, driven by just massive smartphone use and IoT device penetration.
Makes sense.
But the single country with the highest projected growth rate globally in this report is India,
India, really? How high?
forecasted at over 19% CAGR.
Wow, that's incredibly fast growth.
It really stands out. And another interesting one in APAC is South Korea. Its growth is linked in the report, partly to government initiatives promoting smart cities.
So public policy playing a role too.
Definitely. It shows how these global tech trends interact with very local factors, infrastructure, government plans.
Right. The report has loads more detail on other countries, of course, but that gives a flavor. The big picture is growth everywhere, but the speed and the specific reasons vary.
Exactly. The main driver is convenience, AI, automation. They're global, but how they manifest depends a lot on the local context.
So let's bring this all back home, so to speak. For you listening, what does all this mean? This huge growth, the competition, these global trends?
Well, whether you're already using smart assistants or just thinking about it, these forces are definitely shaping the products you'll see.
More features, maybe? Better performance?
Likely, yeah. The intense competition should drive innovation faster. But it also means you might need to think about which ecosystem you want to buy into, Amazon's, Google's, Apple's.
Because they don't always play perfectly together, as we mentioned.
Right. And it means the assistants themselves will just keep getting smarter, appearing in more types of devices.
And that global spread might mean more features tailored to different languages or regions, too.
Could be. But it also brings us back to that crucial point about trust and privacy.
Because as they get smarter and more integrated,
They potentially know more about your habits, your life. So
Yeah.
the choices you make, which brand to trust, what data you're okay sharing, they become even more important.
absolutely. Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive based on the Cognitive Market Research report. We're looking at a market set to nearly triple,
Driven fundamentally by convenience, but supercharged by advances in AI and home automation.
but it's facing headwinds too. Cost is still a factor, compatibility issues linger, and crucially, those big questions around data privacy and security aren't going away.
Nope. And it's a really competitive field. Amazon Alexa might hold the biggest share now, but Google Assistant is growing incredibly fast.
And that competition plays out across different product types, speakers versus apps, and the underlying operating systems, Android versus iOS mainly.
And while North America and Europe are huge markets, the fastest growth is actually projected for places like Asia Pacific, the Middle East, South America, each with its own story.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given how fast AI is moving, making these assistants potentially much more capable, more integrated into our lives, and given those persistent, really important concerns about data privacy and security, how do you think that balance between demanding more and more functionality and needing to feel safe and secure with these devices, how will that shape their future in our homes?
Yeah, what does that ultimately mean for who you personally are comfortable having listening in as this technology continues to evolve so rapidly?
Something to think about.